So I think I'm going to keep this pretty short just because I'm feeling so tired and out of it. But essentially, what I definitely remember from the second part, which I kind of feel like is my second journey in the ayahuasca, is definitely noting and feeling and able to sense. I wasn't seeing, is not the right way of putting it, how there are like different beings other than the ones we can physically see. That might all sound really crazy. I don't know how much it melds into my old viewpoint, but that was a feeling, and the feeling was also that yes, some of them are not necessarily positive, and that there are like negative. I don't like using the word energies, and I also don't like using the word negative, but malicious, malintended. Not necessarily that what I experienced was a spirit that had negative intent. I actually think very likely, I don't know for certain, but have after integrating it lots, not lots, but some, that was just ayahuasca. That was the other thing that was interesting, is I didn't expect ayahuasca to actually feel like a different thing, like a different energy. I expected it to do kind of what other psychedelics do, is like bring things to the forefront for me, just like, taking a substance. But this felt like I met a different spirit, like I was engaging with something different than me, like a different. It didn't feel like me. It was very clearly not me. And so one thing I should talk about is essentially my perspective before this very clearly was like, there's me, there's higher consciousness me, there's soul me, there's whatever me that is like very wise and very potent and very informed, and I can access her or it during psychedelic journeys or meditation or dream states, or like special, or when I'm like connecting deeply with someone, or when I'm really like connected, the higher consciousness me. And then that part of me connects to the part of other people in that way, kind of, you can see the unconscious, but the very wise, the collective unconscious. And also then that goes into everyone else, and we are like all one, and we are not really separate in the end. And we're not even separate from other things that aren't human, you know what I mean? And that we're all the same. But this perspective feels like, rather than going from here to here, it feels like everything in between. It feels like all of this stuff. It feels like, one thing that became clear to me is like, in our Western world, like individualism is so deep. We're even individualistic in our spirituality when we take psychedelics. Like, we're individualistic in the God, like there's one God, there's one spirit. Versus this, it felt really clear that there's like everything. There's like all of the things in this like world. Like, it's not necessarily that what I experienced before was untrue. This just adds a whole nother level to it, and I'm still trying to figure out how that works in with my previous model. But this model feels like makes sense that these cultures will have seen this, like seen these different spirits and these different elements and all of these, like, I don't want to say energies, but like entities, or like everything has, and even things that aren't physical has, there are spirits that are detached to anything that we can physically see with our eyes. And that makes sense, considering they're so, I could feel it in my journey, like they're so community oriented. It's not about me, it's about the group. Like, you are never truly alone in these communities, because you are always with people. You always have like family, community, like a base. You're always supported, in a way. Versus an individualistic culture is like feeling alone, feeling like you have to bear the world by yourself is so common. And I could really feel how like much safer it is, and how much more real it is in this collectivist way, in this like group way. And that's all without saying that, like, the individualistic culture doesn't have like many benefits. I'm just talking about what happened in my journey. And I think the other really important thing is something I've noted a lot and I've always found interesting, especially with COVID, but in general in the spaces in Vancouver, or the people who take like lots of psychedelics or very spiritual in that uh like modern way. What is it called again? Postmodern, whatever, spirituality. And it's all like, it's so easy for people to get very egotistical, to get very like, I'm the most spiritual, I'm the most without ego, I've experienced the most ego death or the most void feeling, or I'm the most connected. And I'm definitely not like, I've definitely experienced that myself. Wanting that feeling and feeling like I'm the most like loving or whatever like that because I'm the most connected and stuff. Um, and I feel in that spiritual perspective where it's like me and my higher self, like my egoless self or whatever like that, and everyone else's egoless selves, and that's the place we should be at all the time. Like, of course that stuff would come up, and of course in our hyper individualistic culture that stuff would come up of wanting to be the most, wanting to be seen apart and stuff like that, and just wanting to be seen, really. um and this collectivist culture is just like, it's so much more humbling. Even the shamans, it's like they're not like special people, they're just people with this access to this space, but it's like they're not trying to be seen as special or unique. And it's like, it's so much about the community, and it's so much about how we all work together to create this beautiful environment, and it includes the spirits and the energies and the elements and everything. And it's not like one thing is above the other, nor are we trying to be, we just are. And it's so much like in the other spiritual perspective, or even the other cultural perspective, it's so hard to get away from the end point, the goal, the reaching enlightenment, that thing, even if we know consciously that's not what we want to do, or that's not the point of all of this. It's so hard to get ourselves out of that mentality, because I think it is so like reaching, versus this one, like collectivist community, the elements, the spirits and stuff like that. It's more about right here, right now. It's more about just like being, and it's more about like seeing what's in front of you and being with it and working through it. And it doesn't feel as much of like reaching and over there and egotistical. It just feels like very like humbling and present, and all of that just calls to me so much more. And I don't want to negate like the importance of the other perspective, because I actually think they work together. I just haven't really figured out how. I also think it's important to say that like, I never believe, and I don't think it's a positive way of looking at things, or not positive, but like almost like ethical. I don't know. I don't think it's right to see energies as negative or positive, because then you see people and behaviors as negative as positive, and that's when like shame comes in, and that's when judgment comes in. And I just think in the end everything is neutral. And we attach so much to it, and we bring so much into it. And if you are thinking of someone or something else as negative or bad, then that's something you should look at in yourself. But it was so clear in this journey, feeling like energies that are not like benevolent or not kind and potentially hurtful. But someone was talking about this, and I'm sitting with it. It's kind of like